Today has been one of announcements, updates, patches, and pretty much everything in between for Helldivers 2, with our new Entrenched Division Warbond dropping somewhere in the middle of that maelstrom. There's a lot riding on this one, what with all the reworks to fire and status effects, and the community is asking how it will stack up, and also, is it worth their hard-earned money? Well, we've now got all the important stats, plus I tested it so you don't have to. If you haven't done so already, please hit subscribe. If you're on mobile, swipe right to hype the video as we dive in and take a look at everything inside Helldivers. As we start to dive into the Entrenched Division Warbond, I'm not only going to give you my brutally honest thoughts and impressions about all the gear and weapons I tested out, I'm also going to give you the hidden in-game stats as well, because those are starting to be made public, which will definitely help you along the way as you work towards a decision of whether to buy Helldivers' latest Warbond or to pass on it. Starting off this breakdown is the SMG 𝗲𝗆𝗆𝗏 Stoker, which is a one-handed SMG. Now the 𝗲𝗆 has the slowest RPM of any SMG currently in the game, firing just 420 rounds per minute. But it also has the second highest base damage of any SMG, sitting at 130 ballistic damage per round, falling just short of the Reprimand's 140. With the 𝗲𝗆 being a light armor pen weapon. However, the 𝗲𝗆 also has a secret weapon here. It has an underbarrel flamethrower. Think of it as a crisper sidearm mounted to this weapon, giving it a heavy armor pen option capable of dealing with enemies like hulks or chargers. Fire was also reworked in today's update 6.1.0 patch update, so it now will slow light and medium enemies while also causing them to panic. At first, I looked at the Stoker's RPM of just 420, and I didn't think this weapon could be as capable as it is, which is a way of saying, I was wrong, don't sleep on the Stoker. Now, I've often said that I like weapons and gear that give us versatility, and this new SMG does just that. You see, it is very stable with virtually no recoil whatsoever, so you can line up headshots on, say, Devastators and other light armor targets. But when the proverbial shit hits the fan, which you know it always does in Helldivers 2, you can then toggle over to the underbarrel crisper and either set the ground ablaze, burning down targets with damage over time ticks, or you can fire the underbarrel flamer directly at heavy targets and cook them in short order. I will say though, it's not going to be a weapon for everyone, as you're going to need to toggle back and forth between the ballistic and fire barrels, which luckily can now be hotkeyed for convenience, but it essentially gives you two weapons in one, freeing you up to run another support weapon or a supply pack, which is really this weapon's only true downside. Ammo. There's just not enough here to keep you topped up and in combat, as you only get 5 starting base magazines and 3 canisters of fuel. However, with a steady supply of ammo, the 𝗲𝗆 is a weapon I didn't think I would like, but ended up really enjoying it once I got the hang of toggling those ammo types. Also to be found on page 1 of the Warbond is the CQC-72 entrenchment tool. So yeah, it's a shovel you can equip as a secondary weapon, and either use as a melee or to dig holes in the ground. To be honest, I really didn't try out the shovel all too much because it's the same as what we already find planetside, but the CQC-72 does 165 base damage, and it also has an armor pen value of 3, so it's medium armor pen. Yeah, I dug some holes, I created a few trenches, I even dug down far enough that I started seeing assets below the surface of the planet. By the way, drop me a comment and let me know if that's what you also see when you dig too far down into the ground. And, you know, overall it does okay as a melee weapon, with its real upside being that when equipped, it won't take the place of a support weapon. That said, there are more viable options we divers currently have in our armories that will give us more oomph than the shovel. Next up on page 2 is the G48 Giga grenade, which pushes out an impressive 2,000 damage. Think of the Giga as a side grade to the 𝗲𝗏𝗏ite, triggered on impact instead of over time, with a larger radius than 𝗲𝗏𝗏ite, but at the expense of overall damage, capacity, and throwing range. Using armor outside of engineering kit, you only get 2 gigas. And from what I was seeing during our testing today, using a resupply off my back was giving me just 1 grenade back. So ammo economy with this nade is a serious issue. I was also seeing more success using it as a mob clearing nade rather than taking out hardened or elite targets, which now that we know that it has an AP value of just 5, I understand why I was not hitting certain targets as hard as I thought it should. The Giga takes a little getting used to because of how limited the throwing range is and just how massive the explosion radius can get. But if you're willing to give up a grenade with single point target damage for mob clearing, the Giga is capable in that regard. Page 2 will also bring you to the AGM-17 Gas Mortar Sentry, which is an absolute unit of a stratagem. Now, in terms of crowd control, the Gas Mortar is impressive, not only locking down packs of enemies, but damaging them over time with its caustic clouds. The description says that the Sentry will prioritize targets that have not yet been gassed, but be careful, like any mortar sentry, it tends to lag behind with enemy movements and can often rain down a gas round straight on top of you and your squad should it target an enemy that was in close quarters to your position. Also, now with the introduction of the gas mortar, you may never want to go back to using the EMS mortar. We were using it today versus the heavy illuminate surges of voteless and flesh mobs, and the amount of CC this turret can rain down is fabulous. When a couple of divers are using them together, you can lock down huge amounts of real estate, letting the gas confuse and slowly damage the targets while you shoot into the clouds to finish them off. Well, we've got a quick break here. If you're enjoying this Helldivers video or the content that I post to the channel, please consider hitting subscribe. My goal for 2026 is to get my subscriber views to account for 50% of my total views. And by hitting subscribe and ringing the notifications bell, you are helping me get one step closer to achieving that goal. All right, on to the final page of Entrenched Division, page 3. And we next come to the P69 Veto sidearm. Now, the Veto fires rocket-propelled rounds that hit for 105 ballistic damage and are AP3 or medium armor pen. Firing the Veto is not difficult, as the ergonomics make it quick and snappy, but you're going to have to get used to its very unique reload mechanics using stripper clips. Now, it can hold 12 rounds, but it's fed through the use of these 6-round stripper clips. So if you run it dry, you'll have to feed it twice to get it back to full capacity. Also, if you haven't yet fired 6 rounds, it will not allow you to reload it until you've at least fired the minimum number of rounds, which does take some getting used to. However, the Veto does have a stagger force of 35, which allows it to stop enemies in their tracks, like berserkers, devastators, and brood commanders. There's a use case to be made here, like if you were getting rushed, you could stun them with the Veto, but I prefer other sidearms like the Senator or SOCOM pistol. And finally, also on page 3 is the 𝗵𝗆𝗆𝗍𝗍 Cremator, which is a heavy armor pen flamer that takes the place of both your support weapon and backpack slots. Now, with all the weapons in the Warbond proper, I was most interested to see what this heavy flamer would perform like. Well, after testing it out, it is really something. During testing, the Cremator felt superior to our standard flamethrower, and now that we have the hidden stats, we know why. You see, it shares the same AP4 as our flamethrower, but has roughly 50% more damage, picking up a full point of tick damage versus the flamethrower. Now, when comboed with the new slow and panic fire status effects, and the fact that it seems to be very efficient burning through its fuel, you can literally lock down massive parts of the battlefield, either in ground fire or direct flame damage. We were burning through flesh mobs with ease, and even harvesters can be dumped in what felt like no time at all, especially when aiming for the leg joints. When you do run the Cremator dry, 1 brick from a resupply will give you full fuel, and then you can just start the flame damage all over again. Really, the only nitpick I was noticing is that when firing, it has a slow rotation speed, and you have to be careful with very fast-moving targets trying to get a flank in on you before you can ignite them. And of course, like with all flame weapons, you will often set yourself on fire for no reason. But more often than not, it's when a target that is ablaze makes a last push through your flame wall and makes contact with you. But outside of that, the Cremator packs a lot of punch and can sustain fire for a lot longer than you think it should. We'll get to the armor sets in just a moment, because now, for a little bonus coverage, let's talk about the Superstore weapon, the SG97 Sweeper Slamfire Shotgun. The Sweeper is a pump-action shotgun that features medium armor pen along with a stout 504 damage while firing armor-piercing fléchette rounds. It's also equipped with a bayonet for when things get extra close and personal that does 165 damage. The Sweeper isn't a big knockback shotgun with only 20 stagger and push force, but I found it to be accurate and very capable. Think of it like a double Freedom without the second barrel, but it's able to sustain fire more consistently. It can also be reloaded one shell at a time, so you can interrupt it to get in a panic shot for hard charging targets. I know, technically the Sweeper is not part of this Warbond, but if you're wanting an AP3 shotgun with some melee ability that packs a decent punch to it, this is the weapon you've been looking for. Also, it's now a second call to action for Arrowhead to finally do something with the ODST M90A, like, I don't know, medium armor pen, as it's time to show that weapon some love and get it on the level of the Double Freedom and Sweeper. The final bit to this review are the armor sets built around 3 different variations of the concussive padding passive. The lightweight version is known as the Hazmat variant, with 50% resistance to explosive damage, 25% resistance to gas damage, and it also reduces sidearm recoil by 30%. The medium sapper armor features the Grenadier variant of this passive for 50% resistance to explosive damage, and it also increases your throwables by plus 2%. The heavy reinforced variant is only available through the Superstore, and it will grant you 50% resistance to explosive damage along with a higher armor rating, which we found out is currently set to a value of 180. Overall, the drip on all 3 of these sets is on point, and this is the first Warbond we've ever seen that gives us different variations of an armor passive based on what class of armor you select. Explosive damage is great versus the automatons, but also for things like the Bile Titan Blast of Bile Spew. And after trying out and testing all 3 of these gear sets, they all have use cases and value to them. So after all of this, the question remains: is the Reinforced Division Warbond worth your hard-earned money? Now, I can admit to this. I am someone that can be critical of Arrowhead and many of their WTF were you thinking design choices, but I can also call it as I see it when they've done solid work. And this new Warbond falls into that category. The SMG, although it doesn't cater to my personal playstyle, offers up versatility with high base ballistic damage and a quick swap to a heavy killing crisper. Just make sure you have a supply of ammo. The gas mortar is capable of massive crowd control, and the Cremator is capable, deadly, and damn fun to use. The Sweeper, although technically not in the Warbond, packs a lot of punch, and the armor sets offer up options and utility. Personally, I wasn't a big fan of the Veto, but it does offer a lot of stagger force and a sidearm, while the shovel is, well, it's a shovel. Enough said. Really, the only piece of gear that I wasn't vibing with was the Giga grenade, mainly because you see that massive damage stat, and you have this big, beefy nade, and it's more suited for mob clearing, and it also has serious supply issues. Overall, if I had to rate Entrenched Division from S to poop tier, I'd personally place it somewhere in a low A into high B tier range. But there you go, and hopefully you found this video helpful. Now, as long as fire status stays where it's currently at, this Warbond is worth the price. But here's where I turn to you, my viewers, for your feedback. Drop a comment and let's see where you land on the Entrenched Division Warbond. Is it great? Is it average? Or maybe it's a hard pass for you? Sound off with your thoughts and let's get a healthy discussion going. If you haven't done so already, please hit subscribe and ring the notifications bell to receive my future upload alerts. If you're on mobile, please swipe right to hype the video. Before I go, I'd like to say thank you to all of our incredible channel members and their dedication to supporting me and my content. Until the next one, this is 𝐙BuzzLitebeer, signing off.